Okay, so here we are in the middle of the chapter entitled HaShabbos Yom Kodesh Baruch Hu, the day that belongs to God, the day in which we reveal the Metziut Ha'amitit, the inner truth, the essence of the creation. So, in Cain, Yeshnam Kama Poskim Asovrim Sh'Adam Nichnas B'Boker Litpala B'Sha Sheva, Kach Kasu B'Shulchan Aruch. It's very possible that you come to synagogue every day, 7 o'clock. You say every word with kavana, and you have not fulfilled your obligation. Because you're doing it not because you're davening, but because you have a kavios. You have a set, established seder that you have to engage in. Not because you have to feel all that which is that you have a what's called chash tzorech. You feel a need to speak to God for your needs. In other words, this is what you do. You get up there and you daven, but it's not. There's an actual relationship. Yehudi tzarech lispal mishum shu kam baboker. Yodesh shekadosh baruch hu yeshlo shebaruch Hashem yeshlo mishpacha im yeladim. Person says to know, I'm blessed with my family, whatever that means, right? Children, etc. Chalav, lechem. They need milk. They need bread. They have to go to school. Duracham elav lavor kivish soin Elisiab deshmaya ein shum efshur listader. And if I didn't daven, if I didn't have the help of God, none of these things would be possible to be organized in my life. So Gishul Tefillah tzrich liot b'diuk kamo she'adam kam b'boker v'nichnas lachanut liknot lechem v'chalav. There's a certain attitude we have when we go to the store in the morning to purchase our needs. I don't just because I have a schedule today. On Tuesdays I go to the supermarket, right? Like if you have enough milk in your fridge, you're not going. The reason I'm going to the store is because I need items that I'm getting in the store. This is interesting because as Rabbi Weeder was pointing out, is that nowadays there is this activity known as shopping, which is the generating of need, which is predicated on need. So you can go and hang out with your friends and say, we're gonna do shopping today. That's our activity. Today we'll go mountain biking, and tomorrow we'll go to the amusement park and the zoo, and the next day on our vacation we'll go shopping. That's part of your activities. So the fact that people go shopping as an activity is itself a sort of a strange sort of new age thing that never existed for all of humanity until now. But anyway, the right reason to go to the store is because you need something. Fine. This is some story about a person who would go to the store every day to purchase milk for his mother as kibbut aveim. So I don't go to the store because I have a schedule. I go to the store at this time, at 9 o'clock to go into the store. Rather, I go into the store. If I have to buy something. If I don't have the need, I'm not going into that store. Okay, so that's the idea. The relationship we have with God is if I need something, I'm gonna go get it. Mishnah Berurah mitargem gam l'divrei Chazal. Mishnah Berurah explains also Chazal al te'as tfilascha keva. Don't make your tefillah keva ella rachamim v'tachanunim. It should be merciful. It should be beseeching. Keva means by rote, set. It has to be exactly this way all the time, and there's no right kavua. That's always meted out, always this time, always these words, in this situation. Rather, it should be filled with a sense of tachanunim. And we spent some time on this in his Sefer on Tefillah. I'm going to daven shachar because I need Hashem. What is tachanunim? Im chasera kavana zu, adam nichnas ki yesh lo min kviut. Because it's a set meeting. We have a set meeting with God every day at this time. Yesh min achronim sovrim she'enu yotzi. Some achronim even say if you don't do tachanunim, you're not yotzi. If you don't have the part of the tefillah that is sort of need-based and time-based, whatever I'm going through right now, that component where you talk to Hashem, the emes in your heart about whatever you're going through, Don't daven an extra time again. Got to do it. You feel you have to do it because it's part of your schedule. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's denigrating people who are doing it as part of a schedule, but that's not the highest level of tefillah. We want to get to a point where we want to have a relationship with Hashem, and the schedule helps us do that. Right? That's part of, or parallels the karbanos, whatever it is. But I don't think he's saying that we dafka should not, don't have a schedule, right? Well, because there are chronim who say that if you just daven like that regularly alone, then you aren't yotzi. It's true. It doesn't mean it's not a good thing. No, it's not. Okay, so go play video games for an hour. It's not the alternative. But right. It's amazing. Amazing that you do that. It's great. Wow. That's a good move. Zoe Dugma al Shultzurat Chaim Im Hashem Yisparach. This is the example of form of life with Hashem. Ki mi goy gadol asher lo lokim krovim elav kashem lokim b'chol koreinu elav. This is the pasuk that actually is found in our tefillin. Who is a great nation for Hashem, who Hashem is close to them? Kol koreinu elav, we call it to Hashem. That's actually the idea that we are that in God's eyes we are this great nation who He wants something to do with. God is close with him. V'emes, in truth, for Amr Chazal, bo micha ve'migan al shlosh, t'chsiv yigid l'cha adam matov, mashim dorish micha, ki masos mishpat v'avas chesed, snei alechas mishim l'kecha there. The Torah has mashim l'kecha, what does Hashem want from you? It has a list of items. Micha then came and reduced it to 3 essentials, right? Be just, love chesed, and be modest with God. Those are the 3 essentials. So Micha reduced, people like they have a signature on their email, and that email is like, that's the essence of their life. That's their, and they have some quote, right? Like, and if you're like a nerd, you read E equals MC squared or something like that. But if you're some quote from Star Trek. But the point is that you have, right. The point is that everyone reduces like all of life to one statement, to one idea. So Micha was one of the first. He reduced it to these 3 things. Essence of life is to walk modestly with Hashem. Udavar shebehatzneah, right? That's done in modesty and privacy. Ein af echad sheyochol lahed al chavero, or shebedavar mesuyam hu beseder, hu bedavar echad eino beseder. You can't really testify about our other friends or people we know and say in this aspect they're really doing well, in this aspect they're not. And things that happen in privacy where we don't know about, we don't know who they are. And only each person knows why he or she is doing something. Only I know my motivations, right? And only you can prevent forest fires. Only you know. Only you know why you're motivated or not. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu penetrates the thoughts of all of mankind, has a sense where that comes from. Toch ezo kavana. That's the inner dimension, the pneumius of the person, parts that nobody knows but Hashem. I believe that the greatness of previous generations was in this aspect, this Nakuda. God lives near the Jew. Kamo kiviyachol ishiyut chaya pshuta, the individual who is chaya upshuta, who is living and simple. Lashon Chazal, Alkach Yehi Ratzon, Shtei Morish Shamayim Alechem, Kimore Basar Adam. May it be your will that your fear of heaven should be like you fear others. What does that mean? That the private relationship you have with God should be just as guarded as you are when you are interacting with, I don't know, your employer or a king or whatever it is, right? Zui Ezo Achaz Menekudas Yisodos Sheben Torah Tzarich La'avod Alein Kam Nekuda Zu Menachah Gadol. So I believe his greatness is the idea, the inner dimension, the inner relationship that you share with Hashem in that moment that nobody is privy to. That is the moment of greatness in which we encounter real growth, right? Who are you when no one is looking? Who are you when the doors are shut? Now, Hagavon Yuchad Shel Shabbos. What is the unique aspect of Shabbos? Every holiday has its unique shape, its form. Pesach, Yano Cheros, the idea of freedom. Shavuos, Matan Torah. Sukkot is Dveikos. Sukkot means connecting to Hashem. And Shabbos is the Yom Shabo Kiviyachol Hashem Yisbarach Nechanech Osanu Lahakir Osim. It is the day that God teaches us to recognize God. Okay? So freedom, right? Torah, connection. And the final one is, again, you have to explore what each of these mean, because this is sort of a general, bird's eye view of the Kabbalistic values of each of the holidays, Kabbalistic ideas of each of the holidays. But Shabbos is really about seeing God. What does that mean? What does it mean, Shabbos? We've already expressed Shabbos is one of those major expressions of religious value, right? And therefore, a person is not allowed to observe Shabbos if they're not Jewish, because that was the most important aspect of religion, and therefore changing the day of Shabbos or observing it, Sunday, right? All of that was akin to sort of taking away the Ikari Hadas, the essence of religion. So Adam Yochel Lakayim is called mitzvos tefillin, mezuzah lulav, v'adayin zu eno das. Do all the mitzvahs, and you can't call that a religious expression per se. It's the ritual. I put on tefillin, I kiss the mezuzah. But das, religion, zu elokut, godliness. Shabbos is shemo shel Baruch Hu zeu hagavan miuchad shel yom zeh. Shabbos, the unique form of this day, is the essence of God. Okay, essence of religion. So now, I move on. Bazet, ukach. I have the yisodi yoter ben Yisrael umut olam. What is the main difference between us and the rest of the nations? Umut olam omrim yesh lokim b'shamayim v'hu bara kol mashu bolam. What does the rest of the world say? They say that God there's God in heaven, and He created the earth. Yesh lo gam hashpa, and He has influence on this earth and everything we feel. Kol hagoyim yadu sheparnasa ba derech hakol chafim. Once upon a time, they all knew that Parnasa came from the stars came from the angels, and the angels were the messengers of Hashem. That was the knowledge they had of the world. That was the Rambam writes, is the origin of Vodazaras. What happened? How does Vodazara start? According to Rambam Hilchos Deos, they knew they worshipped the stars were created by the angels were created by Hashem, so they really worshiped Hashem. So when they saw greatness in other people or things or beings, it was all because it was a manifestation of God's creation, which is the beginning of Vodazara. Then the Rambam says what happened? They just cut out the source. They just started worshiping the stars, right? So that's why we don't worship any of that stuff, because in the end of the day, if you really want to trace it back to God, so cut out the middleman. Yes, of course, that's the desire of Hashem, that everybody in all of humanity should recognize. So, but that was the way the Rambam describes The ta'ut shalem, they made the mistake thinking that God gave the stars some sort of power. Celestial beings. That's the Ram says, the beginning of Avodah Zarah, that they started diving directly to the stars. We know that God didn't give power to anyone other than himself. That influence that comes from heaven. That if you were to ask a standard person, by the way, it's not just non-Jews, Jews also say, "Where's God?" What would they say instantly? If they didn't know Uncle Moshe, point upward. Where's God? Where's Hashem? And that would mean that it's basically a step away from saying God's in the stars, or the stars are God. So that would be a reduction. Hashem is also here. That's the verse says, "Maloch ol haaretz kivodo," that God fills the entire earth with His glory. So Yesod Yadut is the essence of Yadut. Adrabba tachlit shelanu hi legalot kama sheyoter et shlitaso kan ba'aretz. Contrary, the essence is to reveal, right? Whatever is kamash yoter et shlitaso kan. Right, so we have to reveal that God's influence is here in this world as well. That's an important avoda of the Jew to bring that out. So, what is hashgacha pratis? Right, it's you're running late for work and you hit another traffic light, and then all of a sudden you drive by and there's a little accident, and you realize that had that last light, that maybe that would have been you. You don't know, but that sense of hashgacha pratis guiding every detail of this earth is part of Amunah, part of our faith. That's religion. That's belief in Hashem. This notion that God is everywhere, that everything is mitbatel to God, everything is null and void vis-a-vis Hashem, and therefore before Hashem, mishtachavim, we daven. For bowing is the ultimate expression of hisbadlos. Why do we bow? Where did that come from? Because you're saying, I'm so tall and mighty, all of a sudden I'm reducing myself to small, right? Fetal position is the ultimate sensation of need, of loneliness, of longing, of emptiness. Of I'm so little, right? And when you're sad, what you do, right? When you're worried, you get really small, and that's why when you want to build yourself up for an interview, you kind of take up space, and you have to, right? Or if you're on the subway, spaces and spread out really wide just so no one else can sit, particularly a 90-year-old woman. That's what I learned in New York. Anyway, but bitul atzmi, self-nullification is, and we're not talking about false humility, but that self-nullification is the act of inviting God in, and that's why we bow. It's the essence of Yom Kippur, the Yom Kippur Avoda. When the Shem Hashem is declared, what do? We completely bow down. We're on the karka. We're flat on the ground. At that moment, we declare the one true value in the world is Shem Hashem. We all say the name of God is Shem HaMeforosh. The Kohen Gadol says it. We say Baruch Shem Kol Avshalom Ved. Because when you embrace the Yichud Hashem, the oneness of Hashem, there is nothing else in the world. Right? Nothing else factors in terms of our values and our influences. That yes, actually it's the main point of Yom Kippur, and not only that, the main mitzvah of Yom Kippur, the object of worship of Yom Kippur is the Shem Hashem, the name of God. Whereas matzah for Pesach, and the Shem Hashem is heard this said before, the cheftza shel mitzvah of the object of the mitzvah of Yom Kippur is the utterance of Shem Hashem. Completely batlut of everything else. That's why Yom Kippur we don't eat, drink, because we don't have needs, right? There is nothing else. In fact, it was interesting. The Mishnayos tell us in Pirkei Avos that one of the miracles, some of the 10 miracles that were in the Beis Hamikdash, the first bias, then the Mishnah adds a bunch of other miracles. But of the first list of miracles was that they would omdim tzefufim, that when they stand up in the temple, they would be like this. And then when they bow down, they would also have room for everyone. How is everyone crowded like this? And then when they bow down, right? So there's another miracle that happens. It said that Yerushalayim was crowded. Everyone was seeking residence in Yerushalayim during the Aliyah Regel, during the holiday. And yet, no one complained, ainli makom, tsarli makom, no one said this, it's uncomfortable here. So isn't that the same thing? The idea is one of them is in the temple, one of them is Yerushalayim. The idea is that the miracle wasn't that it wasn't crowded, it was crowded. The miracle was that no one said I'm crowded. No one ever said tsarli makom was there. And what does that mean? I think that what it means is that when you're embracing Hashem, you don't worry about things like that. Self-need, individual needs, they kind of come secondary at that point. Right. The contrary of that, if you ever heard one of the masterpieces by Weird Al Yankovic, it's called "Another One Rides the Bus," another one bites the dust. It's by Queen, and there he talks about it's like his first hit. He talks about everyone getting on the bus and like the smelly people and this and this, and and everyone like, and that horrible sensation of being crammed like sardines onto a bus or a subway. So it's itching. Something's bug. Airplane. Something was jumping. Yeah. Airplanes don't have smoking sections. That's right. The difference is when we went to Israel, Shana Aleph, plane ride there was a smoking section. On the way back, they eliminated that. That's it was all because I davened hard enough at the hotel that year and changed. Yeah. Okay. So and they still have on airplanes, they still have little ashtrays that they put on the bathrooms, and as Seinfeld pointed out, deposit spots for razors, just in case you're Jerry Seinfeld pointed out, he's like, forget about the fact that you can't bring a razor on a plane anymore, but who used to shave that much that you have to replace your razor? Like you have Teen Wolf going, oh no, and he had new, right? Like you're like, I get you bring one razor on the plane to shave, but like who's like doing that much? You have to throw it out and replace the shave. Anyway, yeah, whatever. So back to the Torah here. So ata im Elokim nimsa rak b'shamayim be'etzem hu lo kach mafriya. If God is just in heaven, he's kokach mafriya l'adam. It wouldn't really. I could live my life independent of Hashem. He's there and I'm here, and therefore I could do whatever I want. And there's moments in which He doesn't watch or care. All the more so you don't have to nullify yourself. God is in heaven and I'm here. When I go to heaven, I'll worry about God. If I make it there. But He has an influence. He can give me things like He could extend it down on a vine and I'll catch it, right? Also punish me if I'm being bad. He'll strike me down lightning. Therefore, I have to have a relation with Him, a business exchange. I do this and He does this for me. So I keep the connection going like a business relationship. How? Well, I'll put on tefillin, I'll wear tzitzis, I'll have mezuzah on my door, right? I'll matzah kosher at emuna, Hashem yisparach l'leiv l'moach, and I or matzah, right? This is a matzah, and then I'll connect. I'll have to have some sort of faith in God. My heart and my brain will be connected. Because I understand that there's a connection. He has hashpah in this world. If God is not in this world, God is in heaven, then ultimately mitzvahs don't make any sense. That's the point. What is the point of mitzvahs is to foster a connection with God. To say that the physical world, the artziot, is connected to the shemayim, is connected to the spiritual world. That's the point of a mitzvah. And if there is no connection, if it's not true, then mitzvahs don't do anything. People have different notions of God. Right? My notion of God is He's out there in the ether somewhere, and and there's a spiritual dimension. And if I'm lucky, I can go in there. There's a pargo, there's a fence between me and there. And therefore, I'll live a life of hedonism and indifference here. And then when I get there, I'll be spiritual. But you were comprised of a body and a soul and a body because you are both spiritual and physical. Never God expects you to fuse those, and that fusion is the mitzvahs. So in essence, we are sort of microcosms of the world and of Aretz and Shemayim in our bodies. We are Aretzios and Shemayim. We have Nefesh Bahamis, we have an analytic side, and we have a spiritual side to us. And mitzvahs are that kesher. If God is completely on this earth, forget about just in heaven dropping us a line. It's completely different. There's nothing in the world. In other words, if we really believe this, which is the truth, not just that every now and then he checks in on us and says, "You, are you still connected?" And we put on tefillin, and he says, "Okay, here's here's your groceries for today," and they drop down and we catch it in our basket. But if he's really here, bato, I don't even exist. I couldn't even walk. I feel achas. I couldn't do it. If God didn't want me to take the next step, I wouldn't be able to. Can you imagine being that calculated? Can you imagine every bite to eat, you're thinking, he's letting me eat this? Right? Like every sesame seed on everything bagel. That's religious belief. Das perusha ladas mitziut elokut kavriya, to know the existence of God throughout all of creation. And once you are infused with that mentality, then nothing else exists. This oneness of God, Yichud Hashem, this expression in our world is the ultimate goal, is Hashvisa. It's what we call Shabbos. What is Shvisa? What is Shabbos? Adam holech brachov, roim eschaber yoshev b'marpes, beso kisei Noach, kos limoneda, sefer biyado mayesh. Noach. Walk by Shabbos afternoon, you see your friend sitting on their patio in the rocking chair, holding a cup of lemonade. And the book. Book's upside down, doesn't matter. They're to relax. No, it's good. It's a good book they're reading. Something of quality. And you see that. That's Shabbos. What does that mean? Yanko, he says to him, Shabbat Noach, are you relaxed? Beitna mitrachesh beginascha. What's happening in your garden? Otzman katzar b'flashkav tzmicha b'yirakos tered l'timyon ekev hachom harav shorer hayom. So what's he saying? That the plants and the vegetables. Right. It's hot outside, everything's going to burn up. Imlo tashkem miyad. It's like, if you don't water your garden today, Saturday afternoon, everything will be dried up, and you'll have nothing to. Yehudi onelo dolacha hayom ein gina ein yirakos ein olam. There is no garden. There are no vegetables. There's no world. Shrak Elokim is just God. If he wants to give me life, he'll give me life. Now, again, I'm not recommending this because this is really a high level of existence, but it's the truth. It's just that we're not on that level that we could believe it. So we really have to live under false notion that our effort and our shtadlus is alive. But if we were living in that world of absolute truth, then everything would be suspended by God. But also every foot, it would be a really cumbersome way. Every footstep and every bite and every word is calculated through Hashem. So but that is the truth. I spoke on Yantif, I was quoting from Rabbi Moshe Hauer from the OU, a beautiful shir. I think it was Parshas Bamidbar, if I'm not mistaken. And he's talking about that in Perkei Avos, we talk about the Ol Malchus, the two ols, the two burdens that affect us. The burden of Malchus, which is kingship, and we have the burden of Derech Eretz, which is life, nature. And those things keep it, and then we have Ol Malchus Shamayim, right? The burden, that basically the relationship with Hashem. But that those first two ones really keep us away from this truth. What's Ol Malchus? Fear of government, fear of a powerful person, employer, intimidating friends, those things, right? And those are basically the fear of what others will say, think, and do. That's one influence. That influences our actions, right? What will they say? What will they do? What do I have to do to make ends meet? All of that is Omachos. What is Ol Derech Eretz? Human being, I got to eat, I got to drink, I got to exercise, I got to sleep. Those are physical realities. Nature, Derech Eretz. I'm cold, I need a coat. My feet hurt, I need shoes. Right? Those are the influences in our lives. And almost every decision we're making, or human beings are making, are either Ol Malchus or Ol Derech Eretz. But the Gemara says that if you bring in the Ol of Torah, then ultimately you don't really have either of those two. It's just Hashem. And those other go away. Now, you could really get to a level. Someone says something to you and it hurts and whatever, and they don't approve, and you don't care. Why? What does that happen? Either you're slightly deranged, or you get to a point in your faith, in yourself or in Hashem, that it doesn't matter. That someone's lack of approval of you is irrelevant. And then you can get to a point in your existence where the physical things that you think are keeping you afloat don't really matter. Right. If the only thing that kept you going, that gave you physical, spiritual, emotional support was Hashem, then you don't need anything else, right? So there's nothing else you need. So think about the prime example. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son are running away from the Caesar, and they go to a cave. And in the cave, they have one outfit for 12 years. And there's no food, no problem. Hashem brings a stream. There's no a stream of water and a carob tree. This is what they eat. Now, I couldn't eat buxer once, let alone for 12 years. It's the worst fruit in the world. They used to give it to me in school in tuition and say the Israeli teachers that would come in for shlichut, oh, it's delicious. This is chocolate in Israel. Eat buxer, break your teeth open. Like, that's not chocolate. I'm not moving to Israel. That's terrible. And that's what they ate for 12 years. They were totally suspended by Hashem. There was no Ol Malchus. There was no fear of the Malchus. There was no Ol Derech Eretz. They didn't have physical needs. You did live that life, right? You would have no needs. And again, it's not something we can practically do overnight. You have to build to that in life. But we could. Think about when we're 120 years old. What will be our physical needs? Care. Conversation with someone else there, right? Someone's going to talk to you and say hello. Very little. Our physical needs become very little. You're going to be like, well, I better run to the mall and see what new styles they have. It's not even remotely of interest. Fancy foods, a steak dinner, not even, no. You don't want that at that point, right? A little bit of rice and some water, and that's it. What happens to us? Ol Derech Eretz goes away as we get closer to truth, right? So this really is, okay, Ol Malchus.
Isn't it sort of a meeting of the two that we have to have that overall faith in ourselves in the world, and this is ultimately
right
from you,
right.
But yet we have in terms of
So absolutely. Do you have to do your hishtadlus? So Karen's a good question. And I think the way I understand it is like this. It's not that you're going to say, okay, I have to do nothing. It's that you understand your hishtadlus as exactly what Hashem needs in that moment. So I think that's, as opposed to, I better do this because God's only going to get me so far. Faith is going to get me so far, heaven, and I better do the rest. Versus all part of Hashem, what Hashem needs from me. And I know there's a difference, but it seems no difference practically as you're doing the work anyway. But I think there's a difference in our attitude and our feeling about it. You imagine someone who got an advanced degree, and they went to school for so many years, and they can't get a job in their dream white collar work. So they have to do some blue collar work, and they got to work factory, whatever it is, and it's beneath them, and they feel it's not mechubad. Now, who can do that kind of work? Either someone who is okay, so either you have needs and that's it, and you put it differently, you realize that for whatever reason, this is exactly what I have to be doing now. So that it's your attitude that affects. It's your attitude. There are people all over the country now who won't fill the thousands and thousands of jobs that are available and are waiting for that high level job that doesn't exist. And I was interestingly enough, AI is not eliminating blue collar jobs like they thought they were. AI is eliminating the oh yeah. We are we're in for a surprise, and all the fancy degrees are not getting us anywhere. And we have to basically reassess what that means, what an education means, and make it more affordable in order that people are educated and they're not going to go to school anymore unless it's, and there is merit to school, but it's got to be focused. I think this is my diatribe. It's got to be focused on particular lines of work, and you want to become more broadly educated, read some books, get yourself a liberal arts education, but don't pay hundreds of thousands of dollars and be in debt for that, because it's not going to translate to parnasa. I don't know the answer to that, but I do think that it comes from a sense of this area, this kind of dirty place. I don't want to play in that playground, that place to work. That's not for me. That's beneath me. I don't want to do it. I shouldn't have to do it. Realizing that whatever God puts before you in that moment is exactly what you have to be doing in that moment.
Oh,
And that's a hard pill to swallow.
We're
Well, that too. But what if it leads nowhere? But what if it leads nowhere? What if it leads you nowhere, but it puts food on the table until you until you retire, and it doesn't give you, and no one's going to give you a pat on the back. No one's going to credit you. No one's going to say, "Wow, I can't believe that person drove a bus like that. Amazing!" But you did it because that's what Hashem wanted from you in that moment. It was Avigal Rock of blessed memory. One of my teachers. She was the educator in charge of women's education in Boca for years, and her husband was the Rosh Kolo where I learned. She told me a story that her daughter was in school in Israel, and they and the teacher was going around and saying, "Well, what is this one's father do for a living? What does this one do for a living?" And then this one girl's raising her hand in the back, call me, and no one, the teacher wasn't calling on her. And finally, the teacher realized, "Okay, Kaya, what is your?" He nahag Eget. He drives a bus for Eget, and for some reason, the teacher was afraid to call on the student. So Abigail Rock was talking to her daughter about it. She said, "What do you think was going on? Why do you think the teacher was embarrassed for her? Daughter was so proud. Father did that." And there's these societal expectations that's not, whatever it is not mechubar work. It is mechubar work, right? There's haves and haves-nots. There are people who are elite, and people who are there are people who are thinkers and dreamers and builders, and there are people who are workers. And like the two are not, they only meet when there's a need. But ultimately, that's the same attitude people have towards Hashem, right? And that attitude translates spiritually into a very negative place. And so I think that's what he's getting at here. So the bitush is the expression of Shabbos, right? Is Yom Shvisa Shavo Kol Abriya Kula Mitpatelet Klapek. All there is God. Gamagoy, also the Gentile, Imurotza Litzurat Mudat, Bainim and Natsrut Islam, whether it's Christianity or Islam, or Kol Dat or any other religion, Hadavar Yechidi Shmipate Dat Hu Yom Shvisa Mulach. The one thing that is the essence of religious expression is the day off, the day of not doing work. Why is the day of not doing work such a religiously infused concept? The answer is, he says, because that's when you realize that God's in charge. Right? And again, you could. Right. So that's why the notes from the Mashal, Kavulat from Yom Rishon, Sunday became their day of Menucha. And Magia Yom Rishon Notzri, Eno Holech Lavot. Madua Kiesh Elokim Kan Mitbatet Hadat Shalom. Valzeh Amra Torah Ki Goy Shabbos Chayev Misa. And that's why if they observe Shabbos Chayev Misa, Mufkam Masaga Matfisa Shanochot Elokim Be'olamenu Ad Kedei Bitul Kol HaMetziut Klapav Rega Shu Shabbos Ubitul Bezet Kol HaMetziut Kol HaOlam Shucha B'tocho. And that was why it was such an extreme violation of taking on a different religion if they observe Shabbos. Shabbos is the essence of our belief system. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll continue with this chapter next time. Right.